All right. Well, I was being positive. I guess I should have been negative.
You tried, buddy. You can try again in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Flip the Scripts. I'm your host, Stephen Nieman.
And I'm your other host, Ankit and Madhira.
And we're back with Flip the Scripts, which is an adaptation podcast where we compare the original to the new source of media, whether it be the film, TV, or Netflix show. Because I think Netflix show and TV are very different. So we're back this week with Ender's Game, Part 2. So we're going to be talking about Andrew Ender Wiggin and how he saved the world or something.
So, Stephen, before we jump into your fun question time, one thing that we forgot to talk about last week in my fun facts time is the budget and the box office. So the budget for this film was 110 to 115 million US dollars.
Jesus
How
Christ.
much do you think it made at the box office?
I think a lot of people went to go see it because they liked the book and they were hoping it was like a really good adaptation. I also think there were a lot of people who didn't see it because they saw the trailer and weren't that interested. So I want to say 200 mil. They made their money back and then a little bit.
Cool. It was 125.5 million. They didn't make their money back.
Oh, it was close. Oh, man. 75 mil off.
You weren't even close this week.
75,000 off. All right. Well, I was being positive. I guess I should have been negative.
You tried, buddy. You can try again in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah. Well, no, 1 week time because we're supposed to do this in the first episode, not the second episode.
Oh, right. Next week. My bad.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So fun question time. So I have two questions for you, Ankit. My first question is, there are a bunch of armies in the Ender's Game book. Which army would you like to be a part of and why? And you get to choose your commander. Ender cannot be your commander.
Well, damn it. Fine. Okay, could you give me a refresher on who some of the armies were?
So there was the leopard army, the salamander army, the rat army. There was the phoenix army, and the dragon army. And there was one more that I'm not remembering.
Okay.
There were a
So,
lot.
I don't remember who all the commanders are in all of the
Fair.
different armies.
That's fine.
So, I am going to say, I would love if Ender can't be it, and so thus I'm negating the dragon army. I would love to be in the phoenix army, because I just think phoenixes are the coolest animal that you just named.
Yeah.
And I would want Ally to be my commander.
Cool. Maybe a little bit too on the nose, but I think I'd be in the rat army. Partially
That
because
sounds right.
Just because I'm Jewish. By the way, it's a
No,
Jewish
you
army.
just deserve to be there.
It's a
You
full
just deserve
Jewish.
to be in the rat army.
Hey.
Nah. You just deserve to be in the rat army.
Okay, I'm done. Bye, everyone. End the podcast.
See ya.
No,
All right. Finally, he's gone.
It's a Jewish army in the battle army that actually like fights against anti-Semitism, and I like that. And I think
nice.
my commander, I know he's not Jewish, but I really like Dink. So Dink would be my commander.
Cool.
Usually, but
Was
always
that
a
two questions,
Jewish...
or was that just the first question?
That was the first question. My second question is, if you could be any character in the series, who would you be and why?
Okay.
And that was the easy question.
In what sense?
In the book, as an actor, who would you play?
I mean, if I was still a kid, I'd want to play Ender.
You can't choose Ender.
That wasn't part of the thing. If you listen to my other podcast, it's always part of the question. You can't choose this person. So, like, you never stated that, but fine. I'll play your silly games. I'd probably pick Bean as... I'd either pick Bean or not how they did it in the movie, but if you were truly just taking the book to the movie, right? And
course.
everything from the book came to the movie, I would want to play Peter.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think in my head, I would really like to play Graf.
Sure. I didn't go with the adults because I'm not old enough to play the adults.
I mean, I'm not old enough to play Graf either. I just think he has a really
Actually,
interesting
no,
character
we
arc.
might be old enough to play Graf because it's never stated how old Graf is.
That's also true. But there's another character that I would really also love to play, but I can't talk about him because it's a spoiler alert for later in the film.
Oh, yeah, that character, fair. Yeah,
and I didn't want to spoil the second part of the episode for people who have never seen the film or the book at all.
Yeah. That makes sense. Ladies and gentlemen, it'll all make sense soon. I would want to play them. If I was to play one of the adults, I would probably also want to play that character.
Cool. All right. So let's hop back into the adaptation. So we left off. Ender has won a battle. Bonzo is mad. And everyone's like, yeah, Ender. And we cut to Petra and Ender training and fighting. And I'm like, they're doing the Hollywood thing again. They're going to make them fall in love. Yay. Is what I kept thinking every time they were on screen together. Then Ender goes to take a shower. And Bonzo comes in and punches Ender. And he threatens his life. He's like, don't you dare not follow my orders again. And it's like, Ender's like, well, we won though. And I'm like, oh, okay. But also, Bonzo probably is right to punch Ender a bit. So, even though he's stupid. We cut to Ender playing the dream. That all happens in the book, by the way. This is all book. Cut to Ender playing the dream game again. He meets a giant bug that turns into Valentine, and he runs from missiles. And my instant feeling was, where is the playground? So in the book, after he beats the giant, he runs into a playground filled with children who won't play with him. And they turn into wolves and kill him. And he has to figure out how to get rid of the wolves before he can continue. They've cut that bit out completely, and he just ends up going into a wrecked castle. Not a castle like he does in the book, but just a wrecked castle after the missiles hit.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird, but okay. I get it, kind of. Inside the wreckage of the castle, he finds a snake carpet and his sister in a mirror thing. And I was like, okay, I don't know what. The snake carpet does exist in the book, but his sister in a mirror is a bit weird. The snake carpet, he fights it and he kills it. And then he sees Peter in the mirror. Graf is mad. Ender saw Peter. This is all book accurate. He's like, how did he get Peter's picture in the game? He tells her to erase the game. Graf wants Anderson to erase the game completely. This is kind of true in the book, but not true. Anderson doesn't erase the game because Ender keeps playing. The reason why they freaked out is because Peter's image in the game is supposed to be Peter's image of what he is on Earth currently. Like, the game got a file from Earth and put it into the game. It isn't Ender's memory of Peter that's in the game. That's the problem.
Right. It's what does current day Peter look like? Boom.
Exactly. And it's because it's supposed to be what, like a year, maybe 2 years after he got there?
Probably like 2 years at this point.
He's probably 8 right now.
Yeah.
So then I see on his screen, it says 28 days till if reaches the if fleet reaches the destination. And I went, what?
Yeah, this is where I had that note that I was talking about in the last episode, where everything is supposed to happen over a span of 5 years, not 28 days.
Yeah.
And so this is why I said, like, great, everything in this film, they've taken everything and condensed it down into like 2 months.
So then Graf meets with Ender and he's like, you're going to lead the dragon army. You're going to be a commander. First of all, Ender didn't go from just Salamander to being the commander of the dragon army. No, he went from being in Salamander to joining the Phoenix Army and being a platoon leader, and then became a commander. There was a
also,
process.
like, the entire time he's in free time, he's been running a group to where they're all learning and getting better. Like, that's what's letting him learn so quickly.
And that group doesn't exist, apparently. So
Nah.
Dap takes him to his own room, and Dap helps his confidence at the end by saluting Ender. And, Dap earlier in the movie was like, I'll never salute you, even if you are commander. But he actually salutes him. And I'm like, I'm starting to like the character of Dap now, actually. But I wish he was more Dap from the book. Just add the mother line. Sorry, my flashlight turned on. Just add that one mother line, and I think I could have been happy. So then Ender meets his dragon army. Bernard is in the dragon army, and so is Eli. And I was watching the movie and going, they're not in the dragon army.
Yeah, I had that thought too. They ain't supposed to be there, but I guess they're there.
So we cut to another scene, and it just keeps cutting, ladies and gentlemen. The movie is very fast-paced. The book, we get to see Ender grow. The movie's like, nah, we're going to keep going. So we cut to the next
Growth
scene.
doesn't matter.
Ender's dragon army is now in third. I
have an issue with this.
Yes.
Ender's dragon army is... words are hard. Ender's dragon army is number 1 from the very beginning. From the very first battle, they are number 1. They are never third. They are never fifth. They are never second. They are number 1.
Because they are undefeated, everyone. They have a perfect score. They have never lost. And I think that's something that is like, Ender is one of the smartest freaking 8-year-olds you'll ever meet.
Yeah, he's like a mini Sheldon Cooper, but in war tactics.
Literally. So, and that's why they're winning. It's late 3 a.m. and he gets a notice that he's late for a fight with 2 other armies at 3 a.m. Now, in the book, he is late for a fight with 2 armies at the same time, but it's not 3 a.m. when he's notified. He's in Graf's office when he's notified he's late for the fight.
Yeah.
And he has to run and like catch everyone. So, he wakes everyone up, and one of his dragon army people, I didn't know who it was, fell off his bed and like broke his ankle.
Sure, why not? Because you have to add more suspense than we're running late.
Yeah, I'm going to say it was a lie, because Eli's not in the next scene anyway. I'm going to say it was a lie. So Eli broke his ankle, and he's like, Dink, take Eli to the infirmary and then come join us for the fight. So they're headed to the place. They notice the gate is already open. It's completely blacked out. And Petra's there. And Petra's like, oh, I'm your sub. And I'm like, you don't get subs in the battle army arena, but okay.
They just wanted the actors to be
there
in the film more.
Yeah. So he notices that he can't see anybody, and that he feels like all of them are in one place all the way around the gate, ready to fire at them. So they're all in one location. So he beats the ambush with a strategy. He puts one person on top of another person, uses that person as a like a shield, and is able to kill them. That's how he wins that battle in the book. The other thing is, because it's 2 armies, they've kind of combined 3 battles here. There is a moment he fights 2 armies. He's kind of combined 2 moments where it's like, yeah, there were people ready to ambush him. It was supposed to be a whole army was ready to ambush him, like in one location. But apparently there's other people like way down the brig also ready to ambush him. So they use Dink and his wire to swing him around the whole thing to see where everybody is.
Bean.
Sorry, Bean. I wrote Dink, I meant Bean. Because Dink is the first one into the arena with Petra. He sends Bean on a wire. Now, this is explained in the book because Bean comes up with the idea himself, and it's part of the training of the Dragon Army that Bean comes up with it. But now it's kind of just an idea that kind of just happens. I think it's more impressive that Bean comes up with the idea, because Bean's like a mini Ender.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bean's character doesn't get the respect it deserves in this film.
Nah, they washed down Bean's character a lot.
Yeah. So they win the fight very easily, like with all the strategy that they have, and they go through the gate by making a giant group, and just one person goes through. They win without icing everyone, which is just because they have one person go through the gate. And there's I'm done playing the game, and that does happen in the book in a third fight way later, because it was when he was against two armies as well. So they combined 3 fights.
Yeah.
It's just
The issue that I have with this fight, right,
Mhm.
is that before, when Ender's all right, we're going to do a formation. And then Bernard's we've never done a formation. And it's exactly, they won't be expecting it. They never showed us them fighting and not using a formation.
They also never showed us a formation. There was no formation. You know what I mean? It didn't look like a formation. Formations have A, B, C, D, and E, and they even didn't show us a formation with the. They didn't show us the
Salamander definitely isn't. Sorry, finish your sentence.
They didn't show us the Salamander Army, the Salamander Army formations either. So we had nothing to compare it to.
Yeah. Also, Eli definitely wasn't the one that broke his ankle, because Eli was the one that was in the middle of that cube.
Oh. Well, there you go. Thank you, Ankit. You remembered that. I just don't know what kid broke his ankle. A kid broke his ankle. Sad. Bonzo is mad.
I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't supposed to happen potentially.
Oh no!
And the kid legitimately got hurt, and then they just continued.
Oh god! So Bonzo looks really mad that Ender won without killing everyone, and he's like, "I'm gonna kill him." Now this does happen in the book. Ender is threatened by Bonzo. Bonzo, everyone's telling Ender, "Don't go anywhere alone. Have protection at all times." That doesn't happen in the film. He just goes to a shower alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bonzo and 2 other people show up to basically kill him. Now, in the book, this fight is very smart and it's very put together. Ender turns on all the showers and causes steam, and he's covered in soap, so he's very slippery. So he can get through Bonzo's strong hands, who's very tall and bigger than him. So it's really easy for him to slip through the fight because he's smaller and he's able to get through. Now, the stature of the actors are reversed in the film, which isn't necessarily a problem, but the choreography isn't as well put together.
Yeah.
So it's a very sad fight, and it ends in a very stupid way. In the book, Ender breaks Bonzo's nose with his palm.
Mm-hmm.
And then punches him in the groin, and then he falls. And that is the end of the fight. And he is then iced, and we no longer know what happened to Bonzo. We know as readers, we'll explain that later. But in the film, he kicks him with his 2 legs next to the mirror, and Bonzo falls and cracks his head on the tile and dies.
Bonzo. Yeah, and this is the thing. In the book, they never tell Ender the extent of Bonzo's injuries. But literally in the next scene in the film, we see Ender seeing Bonzo being operated on, and then he's like, "Oh, he's gonna die." And Graf's like, "No, he's not gonna die." And Ender's like, "Stop lying to me. I'm done playing your game." And pretty much blows up, and Bonzo dies.
Yeah, and it's yes, Bonzo does die in the book, but also we don't know. Ender doesn't know that he killed him. Stilson's also dead. The bully from the beginning is also dead, and Ender doesn't know he's killed them. So Ender's murdered 2 people without knowing.
Whoop-de-doo.
So they cut the. Yeah, well, you just explained the hospital bit, so we can move forward. So Graf is still talking to Ender, and Graf says, "He'll live. We got to keep going. You got to still play the game." Ender says, "Send me home now or I'll resign." Which I'm like, Ender never threatened that to Graf.
No, but he did silently.
He did. Graf and Ender did end up... So after the fight with Bonzo, they did end up going back to Earth, Graf and Ender, but because Ender was going to go to command school. That was the point. So,
no, but you're saying that he never threatened to quit. He practically did when he said, I don't want to go to command school. So, like, he did threaten to quit, just not in the way that they showed in the film. That's all.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I'm just saying that it was very slightly different.
Okay.
So, he says, so Graf asks Anderson to convince Ender to stay. And then, because we cut to that scene, and they talk about the morality of war. Then we cut back to Earth, and Valentine, now older, now very much older, which didn't make any sense to me, because we talked about how they didn't have Ender age in the movie, but Valentine clearly aged in the movie.
Sure, why not? Like, let's go. Valentine's older. I'm confused just as well as you are.
Wasn't she? I thought she looked older in the film, didn't she?
No, this is just you.
Is it me? Okay.
Dude, think about this. They filmed it in a span of like probably 4 to 6 months. You're telling me that like the actress changed that much, and they also waited, like she had 3 scenes. Yeah, they probably filmed all 3 of those scenes within the same week.
So cut back to Earth, and Valentine, now older, is taken on a ride by Graf. And this is when I realized they cut all the Demonthesis and Locke stuff out.
Yeah.
And they also cut the fact that he was on his way to command school. So we don't know that Ender's on his way to command school. We also don't know that about what Valentine and Peter were up to. So in the book, I'll just explain this really quick. It's really important to the end of when we talk about the ending. But yeah, Peter and Valentine had created these synonyms and have been using online capabilities with some special ways to get in. If you want to understand more, you can read the book passage. But they've been acting as Demonthesis and Locke, who have been these polar opposites political opponents. One talking about how Russia's going to attack them, and the other one talking about how we should welcome everyone. So one's a very liberal, one's a very conservative. It kind of reminds me of a Trump v. Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
Like Demonthesis is a very like Trumpy kind of guy.
Yeah.
And Locke is a very Bernie Sanders. Or maybe AOC would be a better.
Sure. Comparison. I didn't really think of it in like a political sense. So I was just reading the book. Fair. I didn't try to tie it to modern politics.
No, it was just a way for me to think about them as like compare them like to modernists for our readers who've never read the book, listeners who've never read the book or had never watched the film.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, they don't show up in the film, so
yeah. So they've been doing that because Peter uses that to kind of gain power, and Valentine's also gaining power that way. But that's not in the book, and it's one of the ways that Graf uses. He kind of blackmails Valentine into doing what she's about to do, is convince Ender to go to command school. That's not in the film at all. Valentine kind of just does it, and I'm like, okay. And then Valentine gets to see Ender, and she goes to hug him, and it's all great. And they talk about the fight and how he's not Peter. And then they say the quote from the beginning of the film. Mm-hmm. Valentine says, "What if you're the next Major Rackham? What if you will be the next person to actually save us?" And she's like, "Protect everyone, protect me." She convinces him to go back and says, "I'll miss you a lot." And it's sweet. I wish we got more Valentine. We get more Valentine in the book, but I don't really get Valentine much in the film. So I don't really...
You don't get anyone in the film.
Yeah. So he then takes a shuttle to a docking station. He goes to the command center near the Formix, and he ends up at the command center near the Formix planet. Now, they get there so quick. They get there in like, I want to say 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, it takes 3 months for Ender and Graf to get to... Is it Eros is the planet?
That sounds correct.
So Eros, which is the planet where they have the command center that will fight the buggers, not the Formix.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a bit weird. They also, spoiler alert, without Ender figuring out, they're like, "Oh, by the way, this is a Formic base," right away. It's a formic base and arrows in the book as well, but like Ender figures it out. Like it's a moment of him realizing it, not just, oh, this is what it is. The purpose of this war is to prevent all other wars, is what Graf says, and Dap is there, and he shows him to his room, and I'm like, oh, Dap's and arrows? That's interesting. We're gonna call the planet Arrows, even though it's not Arrows. We're just gonna call the planet Arrows because they didn't give it a name.
Sure, sounds good.
So he looks out his window to see a sun blazing on an unknown planet. So this is all pretty close to the book. This is where the film and the book really kind of divide a bit here or there.
Not that much.
I just didn't like this part of the film. This is probably like my lead. Like I enjoyed a lot of like the beginning stuff. This is where my interest in the film kind of dropped off a bit.
I mean, like yeah, fair, but it's not that drastically different. I think again, they could have taken more time with it. That's the main issue, is they didn't give it time.
He wakes up and in his room is an older man, not an old man, an older man. And it's Ben Kingsley with a bunch of tattoos. And I'm like, oh, hey, he was an Iron Man 3.
Who was he in Iron Man?
Isn't he the guy who with the one who pretends to be the villain? He's the actor.
Ben Kingsley?
Yeah. He plays the actor in he's also in Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings.
Oh, he's in the third Iron Man.
Yeah, he's Iron Man 3.
Okay, you said Iron Man and my brain goes to 1 because you didn't add the 3 to the end of it. If you're saying Iron Man 3, you gotta say Iron Man 3.
My bad. Iron Man 3. And I was like, yes. Oh, okay. So
is that seriously all you know Ben Kingsley from?
No, definitely
okay.
Not. I know Ben Kingsley from many other things. Sorry. So it turns out that it's Mazer Rackham, and he's alive. And that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our snack break. Hi, this is Stephen. Thank you for watching Co-op Forge. If you like our content, wish to support our editing staff or all, please subscribe to our Patreon and link down below. You'll get bonus footage and many other fun activities out of it. In our description, you'll also find links to our social media, where we'll post about our new episodes. Flip the Scripts is every Friday. Seattle Across the Pond is every other Thursday. And Post Finale is posted every Wednesday. Thank you for watching. Now back to the main episode. And we're back from the snack break, everyone. So it's Mazer Rackham. Yay, he's alive. They don't explain how he's alive, but obviously if it was 50 years ago, he would be alive.
Yeah. Like he'd just be like 70.
In the book, he's a lot older than Ben Kingsley was. I didn't like Ben Kingsley's casting as Mazer Rackham. I don't think it works. But he's supposed to be a lot older in the book, and they use the time of space like a travel thing. I forget what it's called, but they use it basically to send him almost back in time. So everyone else is older than him.
Think Interstellar. They pretty much did the Interstellar stuff, and he's still alive. Everyone he knows and loves is gone.
So then Mazer takes him to a TV show to train him. And he's like, I'm going to train you. And he's like, how'd you win? And he's like, well, I'm going to show you. So he's showing them the propaganda video that we've seen probably like twice now in the film.
Right.
And he's like, well, no, you showed me how you did that, but what happened next? And he shows him what happened next. And apparently a Phantom Menace moment. So he blew that ship up. The rest of the ships just fell. And Ender asked why. He's like, well, the Queen's ship was destroyed. And when it destroys, all the bugs fall. So he explains the Fornix like they're ants, almost like they're buggers. Oh my gosh, Ankit.
Oh my gosh. What a concept.
The other thing they don't talk about is biologists don't believe in Mazer Rackham's theory that they're like ants. But like they kind of don't talk about that in the film. So he also says and then Ender asks him about the tattoos. He says he's a Mori, which is a culture that I didn't know much about. I think I might look it up eventually. But he's a Mori, and he says he has the tattoos for it's a way for him to speak for the dead. Now, the last chapter of the book is about that. Ender being able to speak for the dead.
Right.
I wish they would have kept that for Ender and not for Mazer. Because I don't think Mazer's character cared much about it.
I agree. I don't think it necessarily makes a whole lot of sense for Mazer, but I wasn't like upset by it. I was like, all right, fine.
And then Ender asks, oh, sorry.
Because here's the thing. Mazer cares about the dead humans. He doesn't care about anyone else.
That's true.
He doesn't care about the dead buggers.
Then Ender asks, well, why did they attack us in the first place? And he's like, water. And I went, bullshit.
Yeah, that was my reaction too.
I was like, what do you mean water? Water? Really? No. The reason why then we'd had an idea of why the buggers attacked in the book. That's what made the fight so interesting, is there was no concept of why.
No, the buggers just attacked.
Exactly. So then he shows up at the place where he will be commander. He shows up at where he'll learn about command school, and it's a little simulation. And there is Petra, Dink, Bernard, Bean, and Eli. And they're there to practice on the sim with him.
Which is true and not true, because in the book, they're not all in the same room as him. But when he logs on to he can't see them physically, but when he logs on, they're there virtually and like they can talk to each other.
It's also a lot more than 5 students. It's almost an entire dragon army. It's everyone he ever trusted. It's all his friends. Bernard is not there. I just want you put Bernard there instead of Soup. I really wanted Soup.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bernard is not there because obviously he broke Bernard's arm in like the first bit. He also helped with Bonzo's like bully thing in the book. So like Bernard would never be there. I just don't understand that character. It's a whole new character. There's a bunch of other characters.
Bernard's just different. But yeah, it's a massive army and no one's there physically. It's all just like he can hear their voices.
Yeah.
But no one's physically there.
So Graf interrupts Razor when Razor is teaching to say the bugger's existence, the form existence, I'm sorry, because we're talking about the film, is a threat. And I'm like, Graf has no power on the ship. In the book, when Graf gets to the ship, he is told, we don't really need you here. He's like, I'm here to protect the kid. And that is why Graf is there. And I wish they kind of kept that, because Graf has no authority on the ship.
Right.
But he has enough authority to interrupt Mazer Rackham in the film. So then we learn about the little doctor and how we all get one shot. And I was like, in the book, don't all the ships have a little doctor? Not just one?
Yeah. If I remember correctly.
Like, I thought the little doctor was the only weapon they had, so everyone had one.
Or at least multiple ships had one?
Yeah, it wasn't just one major doctor ran by one person.
Yeah.
So it just felt like, again, a lot of these movies, what they'll do is, what Ankit and I've been noticing, is they'll de-epicify something. They'll take the concept from the book, what seemed really epic and had this like cool concept, and they'll like make it really simplified for a film audience. It was, you were talking about Dune 2 and how you love it because it doesn't treat the audience like they're children.
Yeah, like that's the biggest issue that I have right now with, I think, a lot of things that are coming out is that it's just assuming that the audience needs everything explained.
So then we cut to Ender, and he's sending more letters to Valentine to let her know how it's going. It's a really good montage to show all the training he's been doing. Except, Valentine would never get his letters, and okay, it's fine. Ender then goes to the fight simulation and is keeping the gun for later. So he keeps doing a bunch of simulations against the computer and Mazer Rackham.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps doing battles and he gets little sleep. They fail their first mission, which in the book, he never fails his simulations, I think, at all. He gets tired.
I think he
gets
does
close.
fail one. I think he does fail one.
I didn't think he did at all in the book. I thought like at the Dragon Army, he was undefeated.
No, in the Dragon Army, yes, but I think he does fail one in the book. But I might be wrong. It might have just been they get very, very close and like they win by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, I think that was it. But Graf and Mazer Rackham get mad at him because of the failure, and they're like, "You can't micromanage your team." And I'm like, "But Ender knows that. Ender trusts these people. He doesn't need to. That was what made him a commander. He didn't need to micromanage them." So
yeah,
I'm so
he could look at the big picture.
I'm so confused that like these lessons they're trying to teach him. Where I'm like, but Ender knew that already in the book. Like he figured that he's smart. Like I just the BS lesson, and then he runs away. Ender then is trying to figure out the Formix, and he's like, why did they attack us? What if they're just asking for help? All this stuff. And then we cut to Graf, and he's talking to Mazer Rackham, and he's like, the reason why I chose him is because he can think like them.
Yeah.
And they're like, what if he's not ready? He's like, he's ready enough. So Dap wakes Ender up for graduation day. So here we are, the most important day for commander school. He's the youngest possible commander to ever graduate from commander school. The Strategos shows up to watch the simulation. The Strategos is the head strategy guy of the entire army. So
yeah,
they're starting the simulation, and I already have an issue with this. So in the book, you know that Mazer Rackham is controlling the simulation. Well, from Ender's perspective, we know Mazer Rackham is controlling simulation from the other side. So he's controlling the Formix, if you will. Why is Mazer Rackham upstairs with everyone else not doing anything, just watching?
I just don't know. It confused me as well. It doesn't make sense. The best I could come up with is maybe he has a platform there so that he can watch and see how Ender reacts, but then also like he can manipulate things.
Sure. Bean then
because in the book he's just like in a different room.
Exactly. So then Bean reminds Ender, when they looked at this entire huge army, they're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be impossible. Bean reminds Ender the enemy's gate is down. This is supposed to cause laughter from all the boys in the dragon army, because they're like, oh yeah, we did win one time because the enemy's gate was down by not even killing anyone. And I'm like, because we were outnumbered. And I'm like, yeah, but Ender doesn't laugh. And I was like, but there's so much like heart and love and like Ender and his friends that I'm like, that's what we kind of needed in this moment of the film. That to me was lost.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. There wasn't a whole lot of comedy in this film, which there isn't a lot in the book either, to be fair. There is not a lot in the book, but there is slightly more.
So he fires at the fleet and clears the way for the enemy planet. And more ships come out of the planet, and he decides, this is very similar to the book in a lot of ways, he decides he wants them to kill the planet. Now, he sacrifices almost every ship for the little doctor to fire at the planet. I don't think he sacrifices
the issue. Yeah, this is the issue that I have with it, is that he doesn't, it's not like this entire battle isn't this sacrificial in the book, I guess. Like,
it's not. Because
again, with Bean's comment, right, everyone realizes, all right, screw this. And they're like, all right, we're mad at these simulations. These simulations are absurd. Why are we doing this? Fine, let's break the rules of battle. Just like we did when they made us go up against two armies. Let's just break the rules of battle. Like, there might be rules that like we need to do. Nah, screw them. Out the window. We're just going to have some fun and mess with them and just, do something completely out of pocket. So, like, yeah,
Ender
like,
thinks he's going to fail. Because the key is Ender still thinks it's a graduation exam.
Which it is, right? And it is a graduation exam. And so their whole idea is just, great, let's just, I'm going to fail anyway. Let's try something completely out of pocket and fail with that.
So they go in the book. I think it's a lot more interesting. So in the book, they're flying through. All the ships are going. They might lose one or two, but they're flying into the planet. Right? They shoot the little doctor in the planet. The planet, bam, blows up, and they're so excited. They're so happy. They're like, haha. Ender's like, I'm done playing your games, and he throws his headset down. In the film, he sacrifices every ship for one little doctor bullet to hit the planet, so everyone else is dead, basically.
Yeah.
And the little doctor hits the bullet, hits the thing, and the planet also blows up. And he does kind of say, I'm done playing games as well to the people. And then Graf shows up. And Graf is congratulating him and thanking him. And we learn it wasn't a game. So in the film, they kind of show the aftermath of the battle on the screen of the simulation. In the book, they just have to say it. They don't need to show and tell. I don't know why in the film they decided to show and tell, which usually it's either show and don't tell, or just tell and don't show. It was just a little weird. Graf comes in and he congratulates Ender, and you see a simulation, the ending of the simulation on the screen. So they're kind of showing and telling at the same time. And I'm saying that that doesn't make any sense. Either you tell us or you show us. You don't need to do both. In the book, they just tell us. And I think, they tell us that it was never a simulation. He's been fighting the Formics. In the simulations, every game has been actual people. And Ender freaks out. He's like, I just sacrificed so many lives to win this game. Like, actual people have died.
Mm-hmm.
And he loses it, and Graf and Rackham follow Ender, and he's so upset about the genocide of the Formics, and it's true in both the book and the film that he's really upset about what he did. Ender says, "We won," and the argument with Graf makes no sense. Ender says, "But it matters how we won, not if we won." And Graf says, that doesn't matter, and he knocks him out. And I didn't like what they did with Graf at the end. I thought, Graf still cares for Ender's person, who he is,
right?
In the book. And the film, it just felt like Ender was a chess piece to Graf.
Mm-hmm.
Which there's two ways to understand it. I think that Ender kind of gets under Graf's skin, so Graf sees him as a human. Ender then dreams of Dreamland and then sees Valentine again. And he runs out because he knows what she wants.
Yeah.
And he kind of gets interrupted by his friends who want to see him, and they try to talk to him, and he doesn't want to see any of them. And then him and Petra, they run onto the planet, and she gives him some air, and I'm like, oh, it's so sweet. They're going to have a love, whatever. Not really, but it still does feel like, they're trying to make this like a romantic thing between the two characters. And Ender leaves Petra and walks into the planet, and he finds an egg of a queen in the mirror, just like in the book. Where he finds the egg, a Formic is there, an albino one. And I was just like, what the heck?
This part made no sense to me. Him finding the egg, cool. But him finding the Formic, confused.
I'm going to explain what happens in the film. And then, Ankit, why don't you explain what happens in the book, the differences?
Why don't I explain the film? Because I think you remember the book slightly better than I do. Because I read the book about 2 weeks ago.
Sounds good, buddy. You explain the film. What happens here? The ending is bullshit, by the way.
The ending is terrible. The ending is the biggest problem that I have with this film. So, in the film, pretty much he goes up and he sees this albino Formic, and then he can kind of talk to it and sense its feelings, and it's like, oh, like you're dying, like, oh no, like I feel so bad. And then he kind of understands that, like, we kind of explained it that they all are kind of like a hive mind. Like if the queen dies, then all the others die. And so he asks, is this a queen? And the Formic's kind of like, yeah, it is. And he's like, all right, like I'll take it, I'll keep it safe, and I will go find another planet for you, and like I'll go find a safe space for you so that the queen can be born, and you guys can exist again.
Yeah. So that's and then he says goodbye to Valentine in a letter, and as an admiral, he goes to save the egg, and that's the end of the movie.
That's the end of the movie.
So, in the book, which is a lot better of an ending, he wakes up after all of the problems that he had, and he gets to actually see his friends, and he hugs them, and he misses them. He actually gets to see them in person. And Petra and Dink are together. They're a couple, and I really like that. I think that's a great couple.
Nice.
Just something that's in the book that I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because they both were good people in the Salamander army that ended up together. The biggest issue, so Ender doesn't know what to do with his life, so they end up sending a colony to colonize the planet, that Eros, to make a new colony there. And Ender doesn't know what to do with his life, so he starts to work with mechanics and stuff. It's a couple months, and Valentine shows up. So Valentine, as DeMarthas promised to move there, Peter's now becoming like in charge of the world, like he becomes president of the world or something like that.
Pretty much.
It's a really interesting story for both of them who aren't Ender. So while Ender's been doing this stuff, they've been doing some really good stuff. So Valentine ends up there, and actually Ender finally has a family again. Like his family are the people he did the war with, but his sister, who he loves beyond all reason, is finally with him again. And it's a really powerful moment. It shows the power of blood and family and love and life, and it's such a good moment. But he's still having issues. He's still dreaming of Dreamland. Now, Dreamland is he's flying. He's going around somewhere with Bean, I believe. It's Bean and him.
I believe so. Yes.
He sees Dreamland in the planet. Now, he's played Dreamland a lot in the book, and he had dreams of it, but he sees it, and he's like, oh my gosh. He sees where the giant is and the playground, and it's like exactly of what he played. And he goes into the castle, and in the castle, in the mirror, he doesn't find Peter's reflection, and the snake carpet doesn't bite him. He finds an egg, and he knows this is a bugger queen egg, and he knows he hasn't genocided the entire population. And he knows that if the buggers only attacked the first time because of misunderstanding, and the second time was the same reason, that they were never going to attack again. In the movie, they make it seem like the buggers were going to attack, Formics are going to attack again. But in the book, you learn that wasn't the truth. That what Ender did was just a retaliatory attack.
Mm-hmm.
And as an admiral, as he grows old with Valentine, he promises to find a planet to put the queen on. And he becomes... Peter doesn't become the ruler anymore of Earth. Peter wants him back on Earth. There's a whole thing about it. Like, they want him
There's a whole thing about that. There's a whole thing where Ender writes, with the help of Valentine, he writes his story from his perspective, which becomes a huge bestseller, like explaining, like, hey, it was a misunderstanding with the buggers. The buggers weren't actually bad. Like, the first time it was a misunderstanding, and then, once they learned that, like, we are also intellectual human beings, they were like, okay, like, we don't want to fight them. Like, maybe we can figure out how to coexist, kind of deal. So, like, he puts his perspective and his experiences all into a book, which becomes massive bestsellers all on Earth and everything as well.
And there's a whole war with Russia that could have started that got ended, and there's this whole thing.
There's a whole nother story happening.
And the thing about me that makes the ending of the book so powerful is he grows old with Valentine. He grows old with his sister, and he learns to accept himself of who he is now.
And by old, I think we mean like early 20s is when the book ends.
No, yeah, of course, but we know he will grow older. I mean, to me, that's the point, right? But to me, it's like he will learn how to live again, and I think that's the powerful impact of the book, where
Yeah.
it's like a person who's been a chess piece the whole film, because he really is a chess piece the whole book. At the end, he becomes his own person, and I think that's the power. That's the moral of the story. Is like you could always find yourself. Don't be afraid to be your own person. Don't be afraid to break the status quo.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think the film missed the moral of the book.
Fair.
Which I think hurts it. Hurts it as a film, hurts it as an adaptation. It is not a good ending. I think the stuff that the albino Formic did was like, there was no reason for it. And it just kind of, the movie was an hour 40, Ankit and I kind of worked out, because it's hour 50 with credits.
Yeah, it's like an hour 53 with credits. If you want to toss in, let's say 10 minutes of credits. So it's somewhere between an hour 40, hour 45-ish.
So this is a movie that could have been 2 hours long, 2.5 hours long, and it would have benefited from that time, because I felt like a lot of times these they think they can just rush the story, but there's so many important elements in this story that make this ending hit, and they didn't land. So, Ankit, now that we finished the Ender's Game, which I am happy I read, and I really did enjoy the book. I've never read the book before, and I'm not a big sci-fi fan, but it was a good book. I'm excited to hop on to our next project, which I'll spoil right now.
Hold on. We got to finish this before we can spoil what we're doing. Stop jumping ahead.
You got it. So we're now going to rate it. So, Ankit, what would you rate the book, The Ender's Game? A scale of 1 to 10.
Probably like an 8.
I'd give it a 9. I never felt like it dropped.
Only reason I give it an 8 is that it took me a bit to get invested into the story.
I think 8.5. It's not like a perfect A, but it was really enjoyable. I found myself getting so engrossed. I would read one chapter and then finish it and then hop into the next one immediately. Sometimes with books,
I guess 8.5, because other than it took me a little bit to get engrossed into the story. Mm-hmm. Once I was engrossed, so it took me 3-4 chapters maybe to be okay, cool, I'm interested now. But until then, I wasn't really interested, and that kind of dropped it. But once I was in, I was great, let's go.
Yeah, and I found it so fascinating. It was so much fun, and I was just in. I was ready for it. I think that the book itself, I like the scale of it. I was oh, cool. We're now back on Earth, and we're doing this thing, and then we're back to this, and we're doing that. And it felt so well put together. It was a really fun story.
It felt like a proper sci-fi book.
And the guy was a theater writer, so that character development was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What would you rate the film as a film, not an adaptation?
As a film, probably a 6.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the critics, and I agree with the most audience score.
It was a fine film.
The only actor that really impressed me was Harrison Ford, and it's because Harrison Ford's a good actor.
Fair. I mean,
you can't
it was
go
a
wrong
fine
with Harrison
film.
Ford.
If I hadn't watched it, or if I hadn't read the book, I would have been okay, cool, that was a fine film, but I'm not gonna watch this again.
Yeah. How would you rate it as an adaptation, sir?
Probably a 7.5.
That's really high.
Because I think what they included, they did a really good job of keeping it to the book.
Okay. I would give it more a 6.9. I didn't like the way they adapted it. I think the ending was very suffer. I think the ending brings the score down a lot. And I think that the things that they chose to do that didn't make the show, that didn't help with the storytelling, I think hurt the adaptation overall.
Yeah, that's why I say that it's a 7.5, is because those things hurt it, right? Mm-hmm. And so, if I think about it, it's the ending, that definitely hurt it. like you were saying, they left out the entire story of what was going on Earth. That definitely hurts it. And I think, like we were saying, the film is very short. Like, they could have easily made this a 2-hour film, and if they did that, they could have included certain elements. Like, even if they still cut out the entire Earth plot and everything that's going on down on Earth with Peter and Valentine, even if they still cut that out, but they made it more interesting so that we cared about the characters a bit more, it would have helped. But so the reason that I still think it's a 7.5 though is that the scenes that are there, like literally or almost word for word what is happening in the book. Like they are very similar. They might have been shot slightly differently and like certain aspects might have been changed, but like there are multiple scenes where I was just like, oh, like that's straight from the book. That is straight from the book. And so I think that's what benefits in terms of the adaptation.
I think the ending hurt the score for me a lot. So I think because they like if you can't land the ending, that's the worst part. Like as an adapter,
what would they do? But what would they do? Because they cut out all of Valentine.
You got to figure it out. You got to be smarter as an adapter.
Great. So what's your answer? You're a director. What's your answer? You can't have Valentine. That's not allowed. What's your answer? How do you fix the ending?
Why can't you have Valentine still come?
Because no. Because that portion of the story isn't there, right? You're saying that what hurt it was the ending, right? Sure. Yes, the ending hurt it, but say the rest of the film is staying generally the same. You can't add the whole Earth plot in. How would you fix the ending?
I don't know yet. I wouldn't know.
Okay.
But I still would give it a 6.9 out of 10.
Sure.
I think the ending hurt the score for me a lot. So
I think for you, it's not the ending hurt the score. I think it's the lack of the Earth plot hurt the score. Because without the Earth plot, you couldn't have the ending.
That's true.
That you
and also,
wanted.
I would also say that the other problems that happened in a lot with the film is how much rushing they had to do to get through the content.
Yeah.
And I think like whether you agree with it or not, there is sometimes the movie felt really slow and fast, and it's like, how do you need to pick a lane. Like you have to be able to control the adaptation. But I think at the end of the day, if this movie could be remade, I think it could be remade because I don't think it did that successfely. I think
they didn't make their money back.
I think somebody could still adapt this movie better. And I think whether it's, I don't know if I trust Disney anymore because some of the Disney projects have been really bad lately, but I would love to see maybe like New Line Cinema or Time Warner, who does Game of Thrones, who did the new House of the Dragon series, which is really good. And they're doing a new Lord of the Rings movie, a new Schmeagol movie directed by Peter Jackson. Maybe they can do it, but I think it'd be lovely to have a new adaptation kind of conquer this. Maybe a TV show that kind of can go like one season is this book and then we can go on to the second book maybe.
Yeah, so an interesting thing, right? And I was alluding to this in the last episode. So I actually listened to the audiobook of it. And at the end of the audiobook, there is a whole section that the author has written just kind of explaining his whole journey, right? How it started and how it became a book and everything after that. And what he says in that is that for years people wanted to adapt it. But everyone wanted to make Ender 16. Everyone wanted to give Ender a love interest, everything. And he kept turning them down because he was 100% adamant that Ender has to be a kid. It has to be before he hits puberty because Ender isn't allowed to have a love interest. You still have to have that innocence. So he kept turning them down for years on end. And then he even says, like in it, because I guess as he was writing that portion, the film hadn't come out yet. And so he was like, look, like, I don't know how this film is going to turn out. But the biggest difficulty that I was having when adapting it was that Ender's Game happens in Ender's head. And so the solution came with one of his later books, which I don't remember which one it was called, but that one is from the point of view of Bean. So similar events of what's going on in Ender's Game, but from Bean's point of view. And so the adaptation for the film is more a mix of the 2 point of views. And so that's how you get this film. And he's like, I don't know how well this is going to go, but my background is in theater and script writing. And so you have just heard the iteration that I think is the best way to tell the story, which is it being read aloud to someone. So by all means, like, ladies and gentlemen, I would recommend, like, pick up a book, read it to somebody, or, you know, have somebody read it to you, listen to the audiobook, because it is very engaging. Like I said, it took me a little bit to get into it just because I was also busy as I was slightly reading the audiobook. But then, like, once, like, you know, maybe like 3 chapters in, I was like, great. Like, I understand what's going on now. Because in the book, you're kind of just dropped in and you're like, what is happening?
So he helped write the script of this film, the writer?
Yeah.
The author?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know if there was, like, you know, something with the producers and, you know, the cinema and everything where they were like, it needs to be under a certain time frame. So yeah.
Who was it produced by?
Don't know off the top of my head.
Because there was this thing way back in the day. It was produced by, like, it was produced for children. It had to be under 2 hours. So if they labeled this as a children's film, it had to be under 2 hours.
Which is dumb, but it was a thing. Let me see if I can figure it out.
Okay. And while he's doing that, everybody, thank you so much for watching this episode. We really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. We really liked Ender's Game. If they ever make a TV show, we'd really love to watch it. I think it'd be really fun to see what a longer adaptation of the TV show could be. One of my favorite book series has a TV show adaptation now, series of unfortunate events, and I really like that one as well. So I'm excited to see, as people get better at adaptation, I think TV shows are definitely a better way to go, book to film so far. And thank you so much for watching. So next week, while Ankit is looking for it, we are going to be hopping into a classic where we are going into The Giver, which is a really great movie that came out, I want to say, about 5-6 years ago. And we're going to be doing book to film for that. And then after that, we'll be hopping into something else. So we're really excited to keep going. Thank you so much for supporting us. If you want to keep supporting us, follow us on social media at Co-op Forge, or donate to our Patreon in the link below. All the links are in the comment section below. So please, any way you can support us, just by liking, subscribing, commenting, anything. Thank you.
It helps us out a lot. Sadly, it doesn't look like there was, like, one major company that I could find. It was just a lot of producers listed. So I don't know, but it might have been that thing of it's a children's film and the runtime needs to be under 2 hours. That could have been it. But yes, like Stephen was saying, everyone, thank you very much for joining. I'm very excited to talk about The Giver next week. I love the book. I have no idea what the film has in store, so that's going to be a doozy. But until then, we'll see you next week.
Ankit read the book. I've only watched the film, so it'll be really fun next week.
How have you never read the book? Hold on. How have you never read the book? It was required reading in school.
No, it got required after I left the grade that it was required for.
Oh, right. You're older than me. Right. You're old. All right. Bye, everyone.
3-year difference. I'm not old. Bye.
Hello, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Flip the Scripts. Flip the Scripts is created, hosted, and produced by Ankit Madhira and Stephen Nieman. Our editor is Sebastien Hollich. The art is by Kshitija Madhira, and the music is by Sebastien Hollich. If you liked the video, you can click to listen to the next part, or if it's not out yet, you can find one of our previous episodes.
Or if you want to check out some of our other content, here's a fun video from another one of our shows.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, comment, and hit that bell icon to get notified of all of our content when it releases.
Subscribe to our Patreon if you want bonus content.
Links to all of our social media and Patreon are in the episode description down below.
Thank you for supporting our content. Come back next week for more shenanigans from Co-op Forge.
New episodes for Flip the Scripts release every Friday, Seattle Across the Pond every other Thursday, and post finale every Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Bye now.